All right, let's jump right into this explainer and explore the genuinely fascinating world of telephone number OSINT. Most of us probably don't think twice about our phone numbers. We hand them out to the pharmacy, we type them in for random rewards programs, and we link them to our social media accounts, just to get that two-factor authentication going. But in the world of open source intelligence, or OSINT, that simple 10-digit string, it is literally one of the most powerful persistent identifiers in existence.
So, it really makes you wonder, exactly how much of a digital footprint is hiding behind a single 10-digit number? Well, to figure that out, we're going to build a complete investigative workflow totally from scratch. We'll walk through the precise techniques professional researchers use to trace a number across the internet. We're talking everything from basic carrier lookups all the way to resurrecting deleted web pages. Even if you've got some technical chops but are totally new to OSINT, don't worry. We're going to break down absolutely every concept from first principles.
Here's our roadmap for today. First up, an intro to telephone OSINT. Then, identifying carriers and providers, mastering advanced search queries, searching hidden public documents, mining historical web archives, and we'll wrap it all up with the complete investigative workflow.
Okay, Section 1. Intro to Telephone OSINT, Demystifying the Investigation. Before we start running any advanced queries, we really need to clearly define the playground we're operating in.
Now, the absolute most crucial thing to understand here is that our investigation is entirely based on information people have willingly or, unknowingly left out there in the public domain. And this is the fundamental difference between OSINT, which is open source intelligence, and SIGINT, or signals intelligence. We are absolutely not intercepting phone calls or hacking into private networks. No way. Everything we're discussing today involves completely legal, publicly accessible data. Think business directories, public documents, and archives. Basically, we are just finding the pieces of a puzzle that are already scattered across the web. When you map it out, the attack surface of a single phone number is just massive. A single number isn't the end goal, it's the starting line. It expands upward into figuring out the country, the specific region, and identifying whether it's a mobile, a landline, or a voice-over IP number. And then it branches downward into reverse number lookups, search engine queries, breach data, and social media profiles. Really, a simple string of digits is basically a skeleton key that can unlock public records, web apps, and historical internet archives.
Moving on to Section 2, Identifying Carriers and Providers, the first steps. Now that we've set our boundaries, let's actually dig into the investigative workflow. How do we start making sense of a target number?
Whenever you have a target number, your workflow really needs to follow these three distinct phases so you can methodically gather your intelligence. First, we identify the type of number and the provider supplying the service. Second, we hunt for subscriber information, like the actual name billed to the account. And finally, we locate connected web content. By breaking it down chronologically like this, we make sure we aren't just taking wild guesses, we are building a solid, evidence-based profile. Now here is where it gets incredibly interesting. There's been a fundamental shift in how modern telecom works, and it's something we can totally exploit. Back in the day, your landline company just sent the caller ID data straight through. But today, Voice over Internet Protocol, or VoIP systems, actually don't receive this data natively. Because of this specific technical limitation, businesses are forced to purchase access to bulk caller ID databases from third-party resellers. And guess what? This exact workaround creates a massive loophole for OSINT researchers because we can go right in and query those exact same databases ourselves. So, by using tools that tap into these reseller databases, places like Twilio or Free Carrier Lookup, you can instantly pull some highly specific details. You aren't just getting the basic country code. You can see the actual line type. Like, is it a mobile phone, a traditional landline, or a VoIP service like Google Voice? You get the exact carrier name. And incredibly, in a lot of cases, you can actually extract the caller name that's associated with the subscriber's billing data. Honestly, it's wild. Information that used to literally require a subpoena can now often be found in seconds just by asking the right API.
Section 3. Mastering Advanced Search Queries, Beating the Algorithms. Once you've got those basics locked down, you have to actually search the number across the web. But standard search engines, they get confused by phone numbers super easily.
People use the craziest formatting variations, and they often do it specifically to hide their contact info from automated spam scrapers. They might literally spell out the numbers like 202-555 or just mix and match digits and letters. If you only search the standard 10 digits, you're going to miss a massive amount of data. To actually find your target, you have to think exactly like them and deliberately search through all of these weird permutations.
Okay, Pay attention to this part because it is a critical mistake that so many beginners make. If you type 202-555-1212 into a search engine without quotation marks, the algorithm often sees that little hyphen as a command to exclude data. It literally thinks you are saying, hey, show me results for 202, but absolutely do not show me 555 or 1212. You will get terrible, useless results. Always, always wrap your phone number queries in quotation marks to force an exact match search. It is absolutely crucial.
All right, on to Section 4, Searching Hidden Public Documents, Mining for Gold. Let's move beyond standard websites for a minute and hunt for the actual files hiding on servers. Because let's face it, the real intelligence usually isn't sitting right there on the homepage.
We can use advanced operators, which are often called Google dorks, to completely bypass normal web pages. By combining your target's phone number with commands like x.xls for Excel files or filetype.pdf, you're instructing the search engine to only return raw documents. Just imagine running a search for a target's number and instantly downloading an exposed corporate spreadsheet or a municipal meeting minute document that they happen to be listed in. It's a real game changer.
This strategy perfectly highlights exactly why document searches are so incredibly valuable. Resumes are an absolute goldmine for OSINT researchers. Think about it. People are fiercely protective of their privacy on social media, right? But to get a job, they will happily upload a PDF resume packed with their cell phone number, personal address, full employment history, and references, straight to a public server. Just adding the word resume alongside a document search often reveals a ton of personal data that the target never, ever intended the general public to see. Section 5. Mining historical web archives, traveling back in time. So what happens if the target suddenly realizes their mistake and deletes the document, or completely scrubs their phone number from their website? Well, that brings us to a fundamental rule of the internet. What goes online stays online. If a page is down or altered, we just use archives like Google Cache or the Wayback Machine to resurrect those dead pages. A cached result lets us grab a recent snapshot of a site right before an update. And the Wayback Machine? That lets us pull up saved copies from years or even decades ago. It's basically time travel.
By tracking a website's history in these archives, we can literally see the timeline unfold. A single timeline might have thousands of captures spread across decades. By clicking through those specific snapshots, we can track exactly when an organization changed its leadership, when a business relocated, or precisely the day when published contact information, like a phone number, was altered or removed entirely.
Another amazing historical tool you should know about is Whoisology. Today, if someone registers a website domain, they almost always enable privacy protections to hide their name and phone number. But it wasn't always that way. If your target owns a website, historical domain tools can actually reveal the original unredacted phone number they used to register that exact site maybe 10 or 15 years ago. It creates this definitive, undeniable link between a digital asset and a real-world identifier. Finally, Section 6. The complete investigative workflow, tying it together. Look, finding the data is really only half the battle. The other half is ensuring our investigation is rock solid and completely evidence-based. This right here might be the single most important concept in OSINT. You absolutely must remember that correlation is not corroboration. Just because a reverse phone lookup tool says a number belongs to John Doe, well, that doesn't make it a fact. That's just low-confidence correlation. High-confidence corroboration means taking that initial finding and proving it by matching the number across multiple independent public sources, like verifying it appears on John Doe's business website, matches his historical domain registration, and shows up on a public PDF document. The author of our source material hits the nail on the head here. Always utilize all of the services in order to gauge the confidence in the results. Never, ever rely on a single directory. Don't just treat outdated information as current without actual proof. You need to meticulously document your search queries, your dates, your findings, and yes, even your intelligence gaps. Professional OSINT is all about critical thinking and properly evaluating the strength of your evidence, rather than just taking the very first Google result as absolute truth. Which leads us to one final thought. We've just seen how carrier databases, document dorks, and historical archives can basically map out a person's entire life from just 10 simple digits. So with decades of archived records and hidden documents just resting out there on the public internet, how secure is that persistent identifier sitting in your pocket right now? It's a question that completely redefines our relationship with data privacy. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.